joining us now on the line, as she does every Monday at this time, is Ann Coulter, best-selling author of, among others, bestsellers, In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. You're still accepting royalties from that book, right, Ann?
I think it's a great book, and I really want Trump to read it.
All right. Well, you heard.
It really was great. It was a campaign I was interviewed by the Miami Herald before the book came out. It came out in August of an election year, and of course, back then, everyone was expecting Trump not to win. Well, except you and me, Howie. In any event, the Miami Herald reporter, who was a very good reporter, Glenn Garvin, he kind of laughed at me and said, "So this book really has a short shelf life, doesn't it? I mean, come November 7th, that's the end of it." And I said, "No, I mean, yes, that's sort of the appeal of it right now, I admit, but I would say any Republican, that's what I am, but really a Democrat could pick up these prescriptions. It's about what it was Trump was saying that made him so great that we're finally hearing from a candidate that we haven't heard before. We have both Republicans and Democrats forming this uniparty in Washington of the donors on Wall Street and the rich against the people. And Trump just broke the mold in every possible way. So that's why I would like him to read it, to get back to the stuff he promised, which I suppose, it's happened before, that politicians come along at the last minute and finally do the thing you've been waiting for them to do. That's what we're all hoping for.
What do you make of this raid, apparently, by the FBI today on the law offices in New York of Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen? I mean, whatever happened to attorney-client privilege?
They are just crazy. I'm surprised they haven't raided you and me, Howie.
Don't give them any ideas.
It seems perfectly obvious, I think, to everyone what was going on here. Whether or not Trump knew about it or generally told Cohen, look, I'm running for president, there are going to be a lot of false allegations. I don't have time to deal with this. Remember, toward the end there, and this was the payment to Stormy Daniels went 10 days before the election. Remember the schedule Trump was on back then? He was doing like 3 rallies a day, just flying all over the country, in particular to the states that Hillary was not going to, like Wisconsin and Michigan. I mean, it was exhausting just trying to watch all those rallies. So, obviously, this is like 2 weeks after the Access Hollywood tape came out. Whether or not the Stormy Daniels allegations are true, and I have a point on each side of that, whether or not they're true, if you're Trump's lawyer, of course you're going to pay her 10 days before the election to shut up. And then, liberals think, we have you now, that's a campaign finance violation. Yeah, it's a campaign finance violation.
Yeah.
Pay the fine.
I know, like the Democrats don't have campaign finance violations, like, all those Hillary Clinton donors that they say best efforts, and they're all from the United Arab Emirates and Qatar and places like that. Best efforts.
Right,
best
and
efforts.
The one that's most parallel is the John Edwards case, payments to someone we know to be not only a mistress but the mother of his child, she was being paid off by big donors. He was tried for that, but he put on a smarmy act in front of the jury, and all the ladies wanted him to date their daughters, so he ended up getting off. But come on, yeah, it's a campaign finance violation, and it might be held. I mean, making that a campaign finance violation might not survive in the Supreme Court. I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but yes, that's what it was. if it is a campaign finance violation. As for whether Stormy's telling the truth or not, I mean.
By the way, what does this have to do with Russian collusion? Paying off a hooker before the election?
That's the problem with an independent counsel. Once you have one, they'll get you on anything. They'll get you for jaywalking. The con side of the argument, that is to say, the believing Stormy Daniels and not believing Donald Trump on Stormy Daniels, is The fact that he has been in office for 2 years and we don't even have the wisp of a hope of a promise of his central campaign promise does make you think, oh, this is someone who doesn't take his promises seriously, whether they're his marriage vows or the promises he made to 63 million Americans to build a wall. The pro side, the I don't believe it happened side, includes the fact
he did stop the caravan, though, didn't he?
I don't know. They haven't reached the border yet. I mean, putting troops there, all they have to do is step inside the border and say, I claim asylum, and he's not doing anything more than Obama was. We have troops processing their applications and putting them on buses into the middle of the country. You've got to stop that. This is why we wanted a wall. This is why the voters may be smarter than the president here, but he figured out what chant it was we were chanting. There's a reason we want a wall, to prevent someone from just stepping across the border and saying, I want asylum. The con side of the part of not believing Stormy Daniels is, one, and I know you're going to get lots of angry calls for this, but she is a porn star, so she's not on my list of most credible witnesses. What possible motive could she have for coming forward? And as for the facts,
did you see she's going to be? Trump is going down to Mar-a-Lago next week or later on this week, and she's going to be in West Palm at a gentleman's retreat when Trump is in town. You think that's going to be a circus?
I wish they'd all stay off the island. In any event, she claims that he didn't use protection the one time they had sex, which I have to say I'm kind of suspicious of, not only because Trump is a germaphobe, but unless he's had a vasectomy, I don't think any man with a lot of money is that dumb.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Ann, what do you make of what's going on with the Syrian nerve gas attacks and the fact that Trump is talking about meeting with the military tonight, and it looks like there's going to be some kind of a retaliatory strike here by the U.S.
Oh, man, this is a disaster, Howie. He ran on no more stupid wars. Why do we have troops all over the Middle East, all over the world, but we can't protect the country that we live in? No, that's considered, some sort of outrageous. What, you're thinking of using troops to help secure our border? No, we need them dying in faraway places that have zero effect on any American. How many Americans have been killed by Syrians in the last 10 years compared to killed by Mexican illegal aliens? How many?
Well, very few. Very few. A handful, but they shouldn't have been killed. But
all they want to do is go to war. We didn't elect the generals.
Well, I don't think the generals don't want to go to war, do they? I mean, no one's talking about going to war, are they?
As long as it doesn't make America safer. Oh, no. LBJ escalated the war in Vietnam. Any war that will not improve one iota any American's life, but a lot of our best Americans will die. Liberals love that.
Ann Coulter, I have to play a cut from you of John Kerry, because this can't be happening in Syria, because John Kerry assured us repeatedly that all of the chemical weapons had been removed. Listen.
It was his decision to decide to bomb that helped to bring people together so we could cut the deal that got 100% of the declared chemical weapons out of Syria. And people, nevertheless, have been critical of one day of bombing versus the virtue of getting 100% of the chemical weapons out of Syria. And I ask any of those critics today, where do you think you would be if ISIL today had access to those chemical weapons in Syria? A terrorist organization with weapons of mass destruction. But because of what we did, we got 100% of the weapons out, and they don't have access to those extraordinary weapons.
So he said it 3 times. It must be true, Ann, right?
How many Americans are killed by the chemical weapon of heroin that is pouring across our border versus chemical weapons being used by someone, we don't know by whom. It really defies logic that after Trump says, okay, we're pulling troops out of Syria, Assad does something like this in order to ensure American troops will stay there, with the entire swamp in Washington desperate to keep the troops in far-flung areas that, again, have nothing to do with
Ann,
the
are you saying this is a deep
America.
Ann, are you saying this is a deep state operation to keep the U.S. troops in Syria?
Well, it may not be. I'm not saying that it was yes, but I'm not saying it was the deep state that sent off the chemical weapon. I'm just saying, the two people in the universe that I'm sure did not use chemical weapons are Donald Trump and Assad, Bashir Assad. Those are the only two I'm 100% sure did not. Whomever or whatever group used the chemical weapons, it's not the guy who was about to have troops pulled out of his country. And any criticisms I level toward the Obama administration on foreign policy, well, other than their involvement, other than getting involved and sending more troops to Afghanistan. But by and large, Obama, I'm glad he didn't do anything after the stupid remark about the red line. My complaint was with him making that red line remark, who cares?
But he announced...
The rest of the world is a cesspool.
But he announced that he and Kerry announced that they'd gotten all the chemical weapons out, just like they announced that they had stopped the Iranians from building nuclear weapons. And now the Iranians are saying, well, guess what? We're going to go back to building nuclear weapons again, as if they ever stopped.
That's true, but I'm not worried about them using nuclear weapons on us. I am worried about what is it? We're up to, I don't know if it's like 116. Didn't you tell me how many Americans are killed from drugs every single day, from heroin every single day in America? It's more than die in car accidents. It's
right.
Astronomical. This is on our border. This is what Americans care about, their communities. Oh, one thing that it did occur to me that kind of makes me laugh is you'd think the President of the United States, this bugged us so much at the time, just because, well, why is he calling it ISIL? That ISIL thing that Obama and Kerry used to call ISIS never really stuck. Nobody, right. It sounds so weird to hear it now, even with the President of the United States referring to this group as ISIL.
Well,
where did they get ISIL?
Kerry
what was
also,
the point of that?
I think it was to just give Israel the shot, wasn't it? So that you're just calling it the Levant. That's kind of like meaning the Israel doesn't exist. It's just the sort of a Muslim sea. I think that's what it was all about. But, remember Kerry also used to use the phrase Daesh because he's multilingual. He's kind of like Melania Trump. He can speak French. He can speak Arabic. So Daesh, that's what he would say sometimes. But then he got the memo from Obama to start calling it ISIL, and that's what he did. And
how did he pronounce Sinaloa, and why don't we know that?
Well, yeah, you're right. We don't know that, so I can't answer that question. And Coulter, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Good to talk to you, Howie Carr.
Okay, bye-bye.